The night the village Idunko drum beat loudly, everyone ran outside. Women dropped their cooking pots, children stopped playing, men grabbed their lanterns. Something serious had happened. At the center of the village square stood Chief Okafor, a tall man of 65 years old, his grey beard shaking with anger. Beside him stood a young girl. She looked about 18 years old. Her name was Amaka, but nobody called her that anymore. The villagers whispered another name, the witch. People stared at her with fear, not because she was ugly. In fact, Amaka was the most beautiful girl in the village, but there was something strange about her, something nobody could explain. Her hair was long, unbelievably long. It reached below her knees, thick, dark, shiny like the night. No girl in the village had hair like that, not even close. And that was where the trouble started. The rumors began when Amaka was just 12 years old. Her hair started growing faster than normal. At first, people admired it. Women asked her mother for the secret. But as the years passed, the hair kept growing, longer and longer and longer. Soon it became the longest hair anyone had ever seen. That was when fear entered the village. One night, something terrible happened. A farmer's goat suddenly died. Another man's crops dried up overnight. A child fell sick without reason. The villagers began whispering. Then someone said the words nobody wanted to say.
Maybe it's that girl.
Maybe it is that girl. Another person added quietly, the girl with the long hair. From that day, everything changed. People stopped greeting Amaka. Children ran away when they saw her. Women closed their doors when she walked past. Even her friends stopped talking to her.
Yes,
And
Amaka,
slowly,
but you are my
her
friend.
new name spread across the village. The witch. Amaka cried many nights. She would sit outside her small hut, brushing her long hair slowly. Her mother, Mama Ijeoma, a 45-year-old widow, would sit beside her. Do not listen to them, her mother always said softly. But Mama, Amaka would whisper
Mama, why
with
did they
tears
hate
in her
me?
eyes. Why do they
understand.
hate me? Her mother never had an answer. But one evening, something happened that made the villagers completely turn against her. It was the night of the New Yam Festival. The whole village gathered to celebrate. Music, dancing, drums everywhere. But suddenly, the wind began to blow strongly. The fire torches went out. The sky became dark, and people heard something strange. A sound. A long whispering sound moving with the wind. Then someone shouted, "Look!" Everyone turned, and what they saw made them scream. Amaka's hair was moving in the wind like living snakes. Long strands flying everywhere. People panicked. Some fell down. Children cried. One old woman shouted loudly, "She is not human!" Another man screamed, "She is a witch!" That was the moment the village decided. Now, Amaka stood in the village square. Hundreds of angry villagers surrounded her. Chief Okafor raised his walking stick. His voice was loud and heavy. "Amaka!" The girl looked down silently. The chief continued. For years, this village has suffered strange problems. Animals dying, children falling sick, crops failing. The crowd shouted angrily, "Yes! Yes! Yes!" Then the chief pointed directly at her hair. And everything started when your hair began to grow like this. The villagers murmured in fear. Then the chief spoke the words that froze the whole place. Tomorrow morning,
And everything
you will
started when
prove
your
to
hair
this
began to grow
village
like
that
this.
you are
Tomorrow morning,
not a
you will prove to
witch.
this village that you
The
are not a
crowd
witch.
became silent. Amaka slowly raised her head. Her eyes were full of tears.
Your hair
The
will be
chief
cut in
finished
front of
his
everyone.
sentence.
If she refused,
Your
the
hair will be
punishment would be
cut
worse,
in front
much
of
worse.
everyone.
Your hair will be cut in front of
Gasps
everyone.
filled the air. If she refused, the punishment would be worse.
Your hair will be
much
cut in front of
worse.
everyone.
Amaka's heart started beating fast because there was a secret about her hair, a secret nobody in the village knew. And if they caught it, something terrible might happen, something that could change the entire village forever. But the biggest question was Amaka really a witch? That night, Amaka did not sleep. She sat inside the small hut she shared with her mother, her fingers slowly running through her long, dark hair. Her mother was awake too. Mama Ijeoma sat beside the dying fire, her eyes red from crying, her hands folded on her lap like a woman who had already surrendered to the worst. Outside, the village of Idunkwo was quiet. But it was the kind of quiet that carried danger inside it, like the silence before thunder. Idunkwo was a small village deep in the forest, surrounded by tall iroko trees and red clay roads. It had no market of its own. The nearest town was a 3-hour walk. The villagers made simple, hard-working people who farmed yam and cassava, fished in the small river behind the hills, and trusted only what their eyes could see. What they could not explain, they feared, and what they feared, they destroyed. Amaka knew this. She had grown up watching it. But now, the thing they wanted to destroy was her. "Mama," she whispered finally. Her mother looked at her. "Tell me the truth tonight. All of it. I am 18 years old. I deserve to know." Mama Ijeoma closed her eyes. For a long time, she said nothing. Then she sighed the kind of sigh that carries years of pain inside it. "Sit down," she said softly. Amaka sat. Her long hair fell around her like a dark curtain, and her mother began to speak. "Before you were born," Mama Ijeoma said slowly, "your father and I could not have children for 7 years. 7 long years. The village laughed at us. Your father's family called me barren. They told him to take another wife." Amaka had heard this part before, but her mother continued. "One evening, I went into the forest to cry alone. I walked deeper than I had ever walked, and I came to a river I had never seen before. The water was so clean it looked like glass." She paused. "And there was a woman sitting by the river. Old, very old. Her hair was long and white, reaching the ground. She looked at me and said, 'Why do you cry, daughter?'
Why are you crying?"
Amaka's breathing slowed. I told her everything, my pain, my shame, my loneliness. She looked at me for a long time. Then she said, 'I will give you a child, a daughter. She will be beautiful and strong and unlike anyone this village has ever seen. But she will carry something with her, a gift from this river. Her hair will grow long and powerful, and inside that hair will live the memory of this river, the river of life.'" Silence. Amaka stared at her mother. The hut was completely silent now. Outside, a cricket stopped singing. "You have been protecting them," Amaka whispered, understanding now. "All this time, you never told them because you are protecting them from themselves." Her mother began to cry. "I was trying to protect both of you, you and this foolish village." Morning came the way all difficult mornings come. Slowly, reluctantly, like it too did not want to witness what was about to happen. The village square of Idunkwo was full before the sun had fully risen. Every man, every woman, every child, they all gathered around the central space where the ancient Udala tree stood. Chief Okafor sat on his carved wooden chair, surrounded by 4 elders. On one side stood the village herbalist, Papa Chukuma, a lean man of 70 with cloudy eyes and hands that shook slightly.
On the other side stood Mama Ngozi, the oldest woman in the village, whose word carried nearly as much weight as the chief's. And in the middle of them all stood Amaka. Her long hair was loose today. It moved gently in the early morning breeze. She looked calm, too calm.
That actually frightened some of the villagers more than anything. A young boy near the back tugged his father's wrapper. "Papa, why is the witch not crying?" His father hushed him quickly. Chief Okafor rose from his chair. He held a small sharp blade that cut the light of the rising sun. He had done this before, years ago. He had cut the hair of a woman accused of witchcraft. She had wept and begged. The village had cheered. He expected the same today. He cleared his throat. "Amaka, daughter of Ijeoma and the late Chukukwa, this village has gathered this morning to end the curse that has plagued us." Murmurs of agreement from the crowd. "Your strange hair is a sign of darkness. Today it will be removed and peace will return to Idunukwo." He stepped forward. Amaka did not move back. She looked directly at him. Her eyes were dry. That was when something shifted. Because even Chief Okafor, a proud man who had led this village for 30 years, felt something strange when he looked into her eyes. Not evil, not darkness, something older, something like patience. Like a river that knows it will still be flowing long after the stone thrown into it has sunk and been forgotten. He raised the blade anyway, because pride is a heavy thing, heavier than wisdom sometimes, and he had already told the whole village what he was going to do. His hand moved toward her hair, and then a sound from far away, a low rumbling like the earth breathing. Everyone froze. The rumbling grew louder. Someone from the edge of the crowd shouted, "The river!" People turned. Beyond the trees at the far end of the village, where the small river of Idunkwo had flowed peacefully for generations, something was happening. The sound was unmistakable. The river was rising. Not flooding, not violently, but rising, swelling, growing louder, like something had woken up inside it. Then the herbalist, Papa Chukuma, who had been quiet all morning, suddenly grabbed his walking stick and stood up straight. His cloudy eyes went wide. He began shaking, not from fear, from recognition. "Stop," he said. His voice was thin, but it cut through the noise like a knife. "Stop." Everyone turned to him, even the chief. Papa Chukuma walked slowly toward Amaka. He looked at her hair. He looked at the way her hair moved, calm, steady like water. Then he turned to face the whole village. His voice carried across the square. 40 years ago, he said, before most of you were old enough to remember, there was a woman in this village, an old woman who came from the forest and warned us. She said, "The river of Idunkwo is alive. It watches over this land. If this village ever turns against the one who carries its gift, the river will leave this place forever." Some of the oldest people in the crowd shifted uncomfortably. Mama Ngozi, the eldest woman, covered her mouth slowly because she remembered. "We thought she was a mad woman," Papa Chukuma continued. "We chased her away. We forgot her words." He pointed at Amaka. "This girl has never harmed any of you. The goats that died, Emeka's oldest son sold them secretly and blamed sickness. I know this because Emeka told me himself 2 rains ago when he was dying and needed forgiveness. Emeka's family went completely still. The child who fell sick, he drank water from the bad part of the stream. I treated him myself. It had nothing to do with any girl." The murmuring in the crowd changed tone now, from anger to uncertainty. The crops that dried, that was the year the rains changed.
It happened in every village around us. Ask the traders who passed through. Silence. Heavy, uncomfortable silence. Papa Chukwuma walked back to his seat slowly. He looked exhausted, like a man who had waited a long time to say something and had finally said it. "We built a story," he said quietly, "because we needed something to blame. And we chose the easiest target, a girl who looked different." Chief Okafor stood very still. The blade was still in his hand, but it felt heavier now. He looked at Amaka again. Her eyes still held that strange patience, that deep, river-quiet calm. He looked at the crowd, at the fear on their faces, at the slowly changing expressions, from rage to shame, from certainty to doubt. He looked at his own hand, holding a blade, pointed at a girl whose only crime was that her hair was long. And for the first time in 30 years, Chief Okafor, the proud leader of Idunko, felt something unfamiliar in his chest. Shame. He lowered his hand. He placed the blade quietly on the ground. He cleared his throat. When he spoke again, his voice was different, quieter. "Amaka?" She looked at him. "I owe you an apology." The crowd stared. An apology from a chief was rarer than rain in the dry season. He turned to face everyone. "We have sinned against this girl, and against her mother, and against ourselves." He paused. "Go back to your homes and think carefully about what we almost did today." It took time. Healing always does. It does not happen in one morning, even a dramatic one. For the first few weeks after that day in the village square, people still crossed the road when they saw Amaka coming. Old habits are stubborn. Fear does not disappear just because it has been publicly embarrassed. But things began to shift, slowly, quietly.
Ogochukwu, whose son had once been accused as the sickly child, came to Amaka's door. She carried a pot of soup. She stood at the door for a long moment. "I am sorry," she said finally. "I was one of the loud ones. I said your name like it was a bad word. I am sorry." Amaka stood in her doorway. She looked at this woman, and she opened the door wider. "Come in," she said. "You can eat with us." Ogochukwu began to cry right there in the doorway, and somewhere far down the hill, the river of Idunko flowed steady and full and clean. The river never left. Some people said that was the miracle. Others said the real miracle was simpler. It was the fact that a village looked at what it was about to become and chose differently. As for Amaka, she never cut her hair. She grew older in Idunko. She became known, truly known, not as a witch, but as the woman who sat by the river and knew things. Farmers came to ask her when to plant. Mothers came to ask her when the rains would change. She never claimed to be anything special. She only ever said the same thing. Listen to the water. It tells you everything if you are patient enough to hear it. She married a kind man from the next village, a quiet man named Tobechukwu, who had heard about the girl with the long hair and come to see for himself, and stayed because she made him feel like the world was bigger and calmer than he had believed. They had a daughter. The girl's hair grew long too, but this time, when the village of Idunko saw it, they did not whisper. They smiled, because they had learned expensively, painfully, nearly too late, that difference is not danger, that strange is not evil, that a thing you cannot explain is not a thing you must destroy. And on the day Amaka's daughter was born, Chief Okafor, older now, slower, his grey beard longer, came to the door of her house. He carried a small gift, a length of cloth the color of river water. He placed it in her hands. "For the child," he said softly. Amaka looked at him. "Thank you, Chief." He nodded slowly. "No," he said. "Thank you for not becoming what we tried to make you." And he walked back down the red clay road, under the tall Iroko trees, into the village that had nearly destroyed itself and chosen, at the very last moment, to be better. Moral lessons from this story. Fear of what we do not understand can lead us to destroy what we should protect. The village of Idunkon feared Amaka's hair simply because they had never seen anything like it. Their fear turned into accusation, and the accusation almost became injustice. Many real-life tragedies begin the same way, not with evil intent, but with unchecked fear. Difference is not danger. Amaka was different. Her hair was unusual, but unusual does not mean harmful. We must train ourselves to ask, is this person actually hurting anyone? Before we ask, is this person strange? Strange and dangerous are not the same thing. Mob mentality is powerful and dangerous. The entire village turned against one girl because everyone else was doing it. When we go along with a crowd without thinking for ourselves, we can become part of great injustices while believing we are standing for what is right. Silence can be a form of protection, but truth must eventually be spoken. Mama Ijoma kept a secret to protect both her daughter and the village. There are times when silence is wisdom, but the old herbalist's willingness to finally speak the truth saved everyone. Silence has its season. So does courage.